Guys, welcome to another episode of The Pulse. You know what we do. We're sitting down with people who have cool stories, talking about their experiences. Sometimes we get to talk to people who we have similar backgrounds with. I didn't even know it. So, actor, G-Dub alum, Scott Wolf in the building with new show. Yeah. Welcome to The Pulse.
Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you. Yeah, I haven't met a fellow GW alum in a minute, so it's awesome.
They were fun times, man.
They were not terrible times.
Yeah. It was good stuff.
Yeah.
Lays the foundation for you to go out and do any and everything.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I think that city college experience is unique. You know, it's not that big campusy thing, but I don't know. The dynamics of it do, I feel like, prepare you in a lot of ways for almost anything.
But for this?
For this even.
Did this prepare you? Was it G-Dub experiences that said, I'm going to be an actor and do it well? Or was that just way after?
It was kind of during. So I didn't go there to act. I went there to study business. It was about my third year of GW studying business that I realized I didn't want to work in business. I had studied enough finance to know that was not my thing. And so I was scrambling, you know. I mean, I was just trying to figure out what was it going to be. And I wound up, so performance acting had always been one of the more powerful influences in my life. I grew up, my mom, took us to the theater, and watching performances in film and television was just something that affected me more than anything else. I was aware of this, like what I refer to as like the magic trick of, when a show or a performance can just pull you in and you lose yourself in it and you're emotionally invested. And when I saw people able to do that and make me, as a kid in New Jersey, feel things, and it was always amazing to me. I just didn't think I had access to it. Okay. And so the third year of college, once I was in this place of like, what am I going to do with my life? A friend of the family who had been an actor wound up like sending a letter to my dad. And after we had met at this party, and was like, look, I had tried to be an actor and I'm not. I'm an accountant now, but I'm just struck. I feel like Scott's supposed to do that.
Really?
Crazy. And I know. And my dad, shared that letter with me, didn't light it on fire and throw it in the trash.
We got bills. Like, stop sending my kid these letters.
That's right. And so I did go back to GW for my senior year, and there was a guy named Nate Garner who has since passed, and he was the head of the theater department at GW. And I went to ask to meet with him, and it was a kind of a really important moment because I didn't know it at the time, but I had just begun to have this feeling of like, I think this might be what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I went to meet with him, and I said, look, I'm a fourth year finance major. He's like, all right. And I said, so I think theater and acting, I think this is what I want to do with my life. Sure. And rather than saying, I got people who have already been with me for 3 years and I can't help you. He said, well, what do you have in mind? And I said, well, if you can maybe help me create an independent study, and I'll like create a syllabus of books that I could read just so when I get out of here in a year, I'm a little more prepared. And wow. And he said, let's do it. He said, okay. And so it was the first like gatekeeper, if you will, And I think these people show up in our lives, and some of them shut the gate on people and say, go find somebody else or not now. And the fact that he just said, yeah, come on in was... I just feel like it was really important, and it's something I've carried with me. So like mentoring, any chance I get to talk to people about the work. If someone's like, oh, my son thinks he wants to do it, I'm like, here's my email, have him reach out.
Do it for you.
Yeah,
and
because
it inspired you.
If I can gatekeep and be a green light and welcome somebody in, I think, especially early on, I like to think if someone's meant to do something, they're going to get past a red light. But a green light and a welcome in means a lot.
It's such an example of, one, somebody sends your dad a letter, and you are, okay, let's do this. I'm going to go meet with somebody.
Yeah.
And that was in you. But also that whole difference that somebody who actually opens the door and doesn't squash your dreams.
This friend of my dad's, it was my dad's best friend's brother who sent this letter, who had been an actor. And he had gotten, knocked around, didn't stay with it, couldn't make a living doing it. So many people would have not written that letter. They'd have just been like, man, this kid, I think he's supposed to do it, but that's crazy. And am I really going to write his dad a letter? And so the fact that he did it, again, I like to think I'd still be sitting here with you if he didn't, but I don't know that. And so it's like, say the thing. You're struck, and you and the thing you say, regardless of what it's going to do, whether somebody takes it, like you said, he could have sent that letter and I'd have been like, that's crazy. I'm not doing anything with that. But yeah, say the thing. Say the thing to a person. Yeah.
Coming up next, Party of Five was a 90s sensation, but it was just the beginning.
I feel like Party of Five in many ways was the culmination of a process of a few years of building towards it, but it was very much the beginning of a whole new process.
Party of Five,
right.
And there were steps.
Absolutely.
But Party of Five was the thing.
It was.
Like, how long was it before you got the thing?
Well, from the time that letter came, I still had a year left of college, but from the time that I made the decision, did the proverbial pack up the Toyota Celica and drive to Hollywood, it was 3 years. 3 years. Okay. Which, look, I mean, if you had asked 21-year-old me who was driving to the West Coast, I'd have been like, give me 4 months and I'll have this thing on lock.
Okay. 3 years is pretty good.
3 years is really good. And by the way, if it wasn't for that 3 years, I would never have been ready to meet the opportunity that Party of Five was. Okay. So all those steps, like you said, there was a lot in between, a lot of steps. And it kept feeling like, it was almost like there were these mysteries. I would start auditioning for things. I was studying acting. And then I was an extra at first, which is, just background on Saved by the Bell and, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I'm dating myself now. And what I saw was an opportunity to be on set without a lot of pressure. I had never stepped foot on a soundstage before, been around television production. And so doing extra work, background work, you could show up, you just had to wander behind Will Smith while he was doing the hard part, saying lines. Or in Saved by the Bell, in the high school. Yeah. And I was just studying. I was listening and watching. And so my first learning experience was that, and just trying to absorbing a sense of what this world is, so that when I'm standing where Will Smith is and I got to do the hard part, I'm ready. And it
was intentional. You were actually going through that process, even then, knowing that you were in a learning process.
100%. 100%.
Really?
And tons of my friends, they were like, well, how long are you going out there for? And I was like, well, I'm not going out there for a time. I'm going to do a thing. I believed in myself. I was committed fully with intention to that process. And I also had a sense in my mind of look, if a time comes where, like the guy who wrote the letter saying I should do this, if a time comes where I'm not supposed to do this or it's not happening, I hope I've been given the sense to be able to make a change. The process was sort of once I started auditioning for things, auditioning for commercials at first, and it was not getting any kind of callbacks. A callback is you do well enough that they narrow the pool, and now instead of one of 50 guys, you're one of 6.
Right.
And then you have a callback, and then they narrow it down until someone gets the job. Well, I couldn't get a callback, and then finally I got a callback, and it was I have a sense of why that went well, and then I'd get callbacks for everything. And then I was like, how do I get the gig, And then little by little, it was oh, I booked one of these things. And all the way to 3 years in, and Party of Five.
Steady progress.
And thank God, I was if I had gotten, Party of Five after 3 months, I'd have flamed out, and I just wouldn't have been ready for it.
So was it that at 24, I think you said you were Party of Five, 24-ish?
Yep, 24.
Change your life?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was huge for a 24-year-old.
Changed my life in every way. And yeah, again, very, very grateful that as a person and as an actor, I was ready. As ready as you can be for something that's life-changing in ways that, there's no way to anticipate what the experience is going to be. And there's very few people you can talk to about, what's this going to be like.
You're 24 and a star and can't go anywhere. And you're working with people who, with yourself, would end up being stars.
Yeah.
And have long careers. What's that like? Like, there's not a lot of people you can ask that. Maybe
That's
Will
right.
Smith.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Although he was by then, a huge movie star. I feel like Party of Five in many ways was the culmination of a process of a few years of building towards it, but it was very much the beginning of a whole new process, which was like really figuring out day by day, episode by episode, year by year, how to be an actor the way I wanted to be, and what it meant to the person that I was wanting to become. And but I did feel like I wasn't, I think when you're young, you can sort of feel up for grabs in a way, like at the mercy of things. And I feel like I don't know, I just was not up for grabs at that point. I felt like I had really started to understand what the work meant to me, how important it was.
You were ready for it.
I was ready for it.
And grounded enough to handle it?
That's right. That's right. And I was playing 16, and I was 24.
Right.
And so, which was kind of common at the time because, if you cast under 18, there's all kinds of child labor laws and rules, and it makes production a lot harder. So,
looking young has its benefits.
It absolutely does. And if I looked my age, I never would have played Bailey Salinger on Party of Five. So I got a chance to play a character going through that really formative time of their lives because I looked a lot younger than I was. The show had sort of a slow start. And in a way that was even helpful because it wasn't like bang, super successful, a very shaky experience. It was like, keep your nose down, do this work. Hopefully an audience is going to find us. But we were like,
earned it.
Yeah, we were like the best show you're not watching for a while.
I read that that show at some point was probably closer to being canceled than blowing up.
100%.
And then it just happened.
Yep.
And made stars out of all of you.
Yeah.
Next. Okay, Scott Wolf is not a doctor, but he played one on TV a lot.
Yeah, so I've played four doctors on TV. Why? I don't know. I give off doctor vibes. I have doctor energy.
Doctor vibes. Playing a doctor a lot.
Yeah, it's a thing.
You play a doctor a lot.
I do. I don't know. I'm grateful because it's they're very cool worlds to inhabit and complicated, great characters. Yeah, so I've played four doctors on TV. Why? I don't know. I give off doctor vibes. I have doctor energy.
Doctor vibes. All right. So the new show.
Yeah.
Like, you're playing a doctor.
Yeah. Again.
Tell us, but this one's cool. Like, it's not that the others weren't, but there's all kinds of twists and turns. It's just getting started, so we don't know all of those twists and turns.
No.
But tell us about Doc.
Yeah, so Doc is a hospital show in its DNA. It's based on a true story. And it's a true story of a doctor who is an incredible physician, saving lives. Yeah. And has a terrible accident, and through an amnesia, loses a giant chunk of their lives, doesn't remember it at all. So Amy Larson, the doctor at the center of Doc, loses 8 years of her life. And when she comes back, it's like it resets life for her but for everybody around her. So the show becomes really about, her having a second chance. What she comes to find out pretty quickly is she doesn't remember the person that she just was the day before. The person that she had become because life had lifed was a person she never would want to be. She was very coarse. She was hard. Her bedside manner was cold. And she had been an incredibly warm, compassionate person. She comes to find out she has lived through some of the hardest things life can do to a person. As a parent, it's crazy. It makes me emotional.
Talking about this show is making you emotional.
Yeah.
This is not acting.
Or is it? No, it's why I make the medium bucks. This character is one of the cooler, more complicated characters I'll ever have a chance to play. So the character I play, Dr. Richard Miller, has the most complicated relationship with Amy. So what we come to find out is, at one point, they were very close. When we meet them now, the person she's become, after she lived through some of these very difficult things over the past decade, they have a very, very coarse animosity between them. And then the coarser and colder she became, the more difficult it was for us to relate to each other. So when we first meet, you see a conflict, and she even makes an accusation about a mistake she thinks I made that I deny, and then the accident happens.
Okay.
And so
you're good at this, man. You should be an actor. We're sitting here setting this all
the
up.
Stage.
We're sitting here going,
hang on. I know. I want to watch this show.
Coming up next, how Scott Wolf has been using his voice for good for years in his TV roles.
I think my artistic voice matters to me. The characters that I play, the characters I choose to play, the projects I choose to be a part of.
The whole theme of this show is the concept of use your voice for good.
Great.
It seems like that in a lot of ways has kind of been the foundation of your career. You're not out there causing drama.
I try not to be.
People, or maybe you do, and it's just acting. But when you hear use your voice for good, what does that mean to you as an inspiration, as the next generation, as opening those doors you were talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it means everything to me. I feel like I have really tried to to live my life by this use your voice for good. And I don't see that as just a use Scott's voice for good. I think my artistic voice matters to me. The characters that I play, the characters I choose to play, the projects I choose to be a part of, that to me is my voice. And so, trying to be part of telling stories and commit myself to telling them in a way authentically and with my whole self, put every bit of my passion and commitment. The hope is, and this started with Party of Five, that character, that story meant a lot to people. And it served as a companion piece to people's lives. It wasn't just entertainment. Yeah. We seek first to entertain. If these shows aren't entertaining to people, they're failing. But you can do more than that. You can entertain and really touch people's lives, tell stories that matter to them, tell stories that people are really living through. These cases that we tell on Doc, people are living through these things or things like them. And so I think using our collective creative voices for good matters a lot. And in my personal life, my wife and we've been involved in a ton of philanthropic efforts of our own, been part of charities that we really believe in terms of mentoring, other people that are aspiring to do the kinds of things that I've done, paying things forward in that way. I mean, look, we are living through a time right now where we're being sold a bill of goods, man. We're being sold a bill of goods. We're being told that there's more that divides us than unites us, that the power of our differences and our conflicts matters more than the things we have in common. 99% of how we think, feel, and do is the same. We all want the same things for ourselves and our kids and our neighbors and our friends and people we love. So
it's up to us to do it. Yeah.
And I appreciate you being a voice for that. The thing I do love about being part of a show like this is we entertain first, but we're aspiring to do other things too. And the voice of this show really wants to celebrate, I think, this idea of grace, compassion, second chances, knowing that there's more than meets the eye with anyone we encounter. And just when you think you know somebody and what they're capable of and how you feel about them as a character, this show's going to surprise you and turn things on their heads and force you as a viewer to ask yourself, like, might that be me if I was in that circumstance? And maybe I should be a little more open-minded than I could be, than I have been about these characters and about the people I encounter in my life.
Guys, thanks so much for watching The Pulse. Today with actor Scott Wolf. He was just a good dude. To actually get a chance to meet him and see what kind of person he is and the message he shares, I really enjoyed it. I feel like I say that a lot, but I hope that you did as well. Do me a favor, you can listen to the entire unedited version, all places where podcasts are available, and I leave you today, as I always do, reminding you whenever you can, use your voice for good, like Scott does, and have a good one.